Sarah was assessed before school on Friday, September 9th. There were 3 skills that were assessed in the informal assessment, including vocabulary, memory, and reading comprehension. I did allow her to choose the order of the topics that she was assessed in. The first assessment that she took was the memory section. I gave her a total of 10 tasks that she needed to remember and complete. The tasks were simple and non-academic. She was scored by percentage on this part. 0 to 50% was considered low, 60 to 80% was considered average, and a 90 to 100% was considered strong. The second skill she was assessed on was vocabulary. She was given 10 vocabulary words that she had been exposed to in at least one of her classes and was asked to define those words. I did leave her alone to complete that part of the assessment by herself, but I stayed close in case she had any questions. She was not given any sentences because I wanted to see how successful she would be without context clues, as her Linkit assessment said that with context clues, she does better with vocabulary than without context clues. The assessment was again scored by percentage. 0 to 50% was considered weak, 60 to 80% was considered average, and 90 to 100% was considered strong. The last assessment was reading comprehension. I gave her part of a short story written by Roald Dahl, which was called The Lamb or the Slaughter. This is an author that she has read before, so she is familiar with his style of writing and with the way he formats his writing. She read silently to herself and was encouraged to refer to the reading when completing the comprehension questions. This was a score based on how many of those questions she got correct. A typical 7th grader is able to answer 75% of comprehension questions, according to the Middletown English supervisor. So, for this assessment, 1 to 2 questions correct was low, 3 to 4 questions was average, and 5 questions answered correctly was strong. Sarah kept a positive attitude throughout the entire assessment. Even though she came in early, she was smiley and even said when doing the memory part that she had fun. The assessment took place before school, as I stated, so there really were no distractions. There was an occasional person that walked through the hallway, but at that time, the school is very quiet. There are no students in the building, and there are very few teachers in the building. She was very compliant. After a set of directions were given, she would simply say, okay, and begin the task. I do believe Sarah gave her best effort on the memory and the reading comprehension. She looked really focused on these parts. Because she did not enjoy vocabulary, I think she did put an effort in, but not her best effort. On this section, you could see that there were a lot of blanks left. She didn't try to answer a lot of the vocabulary words, and she finished this part within about 5 minutes. The results were as follows. She received an 8 out of 10 or an 80% on memory, a 4 out of 10 or a 40% on vocabulary, and a 2 out of 5 on the reading comprehension. This means she scored below average for reading comprehension and vocabulary, and she scored average, almost strong, in memory. Based on these results and observations, vocabulary and reading comprehension are a weakness. Her attitude and her memory seem to be a big strength for her. I believe the results gave me the data I needed. It showed me how weak her reading comprehension and her vocabulary actually are. These areas need to be worked on significantly in more than one class. I was surprised by the memory section because I did not think she'd be able to remember that many tasks. The only change I would make to the assessment is to this memory section. I gave her the tasks, I read them slow to her twice, and then let her immediately go start the tasks. I believe if I gave her about 10 minutes or so in between reading the tasks and having her go do the tasks, I don't think she would have scored as well as she actually did. During that 10 minutes, I could have had her taking a reading comprehension part, or I could have even just engaged her in a conversation. I would not change anything about how I completed the process. The results for reading comprehension and vocabulary matched what I found in her file. As I stated, I was surprised by the results of the memory assessment. Her file listed the short-term and working memory as a big area of weakness for her, but that was not what I saw during my assessment. When I assessed her, she received an 80% in memory. My findings on her memory and the information that was found in her file did not match.